Hi, good morning everyone. Let's get started with our next training topic, which is on overview of SAP OSDB migration project. So in this project or in this particular training session, we will talk about the different aspects involved in performing a migration. Okay, so let's get started straight away. So basically, before we get into it, I will just give you a brief overview of the different terminologies which we have covered so far. So what we have seen is we have seen the different terminologies like what is a heterogeneous system copy, what is a homogeneous system copy, when we need to perform homogeneous system copy, when we need to perform heterogeneous system copy, how and what is OSDB migration, and let's see few other things like what is an SAP instance. And basically SAP instance is like you have a central instance and database. We refer to that as an SAP instance, and there are different products in SAP like SAP R3, ECC, SRM, CRM, BW, and there are ABAP based product, there are Java based product, and there are products which require both ABAP and Java stack, so they are all clubbed under different SAP instances. Okay, then client copy or client transport, database refresh. So database refresh is like copying an SAP instance to another server of the same platform, generally the restore or backup tape. Okay, so that is on the different terminology recap of it. And reasons for a platform change, we have seen that hardware vendor enhancements. Say for example the vendor comes up with the new infrastructure, new architecture, new hardware, then there may or may not be these may or may not be heterogeneous migration, but they are definitely migrations. They are the homogeneous migrations. Then performance of current platform may not be acceptable in things like the current architecture doesn't support it, CPU or performance issues are there, memory limitation is there, IO limitation is there, and we want to get into newer technology, so we just want to get out of this. There are different vendors which support, or some vendors have a newer product or product which gives better support, better performance, better interoperability. So in those scenarios we do a change in terms of OS or in terms of database. Okay, and there are things like logistic things like admin things like, say for example, if we are running an older platform, older OS, we may not be able to find the admin resource for it. We may need to keep resource just for managing a small piece of the technology. The TCO will be lower because we need to train the people, train the personnel, licensing cost may be high, maintenance cost may be high. So these could be the different reasons of performing and migration. Okay, so based on this, the key considerations after the decision is being made, that is which platform to choose, who will perform the migrations, and what is going to be the timeline for the migration, how long we want to basically how much time we want to take to perform the migration of the entire SAP landscape. Do we need a third-party product? Do we need to check the interoperability of the third-party product or third-party support as well? Because there may be interfaces which need to be migrated, and those interfaces should work on the newer versions of the SAP system. Okay, we may require to change a licensing agreement with SAP. So don't wait till the end, but plan it out and make sure that you have at least 6 weeks before you start your activities. And once the migration is done, you need to involve SAP to do the post migration or post migration check, so that in case if any major errors are there, they get detected and they can be corrected in time before it is too late. Okay, so let's see a quick recap of what is a heterogeneous system. That we have seen is that we are moving to a new hardware, we are moving to a new OS, different database, different hardware vendors, we are changing the operating system and the database. So that is the time when we go for heterogeneous system copy, or we call as a OSDB migration as well. Okay, so that is on the OSDB migration. So OSDB migration, we have seen that why we need to perform these OSDB migrations. So basically there could be scenarios that the hardware enhancements has come, the performance improvement will be there in the new hardware, there are new technologies available, administrative efficiency will increase if we go for the newer versions, cost reduction can happen if we upgrade or we migrate to a newer platform. Okay, so basically these are some of the reasons why we need to perform this particular activity. Okay, now in this particular slide I am giving you a quick overview of when do we call a particular migration as an OSDB migration. Say for example SAP R3 system copy, it could be homogeneous or heterogeneous. Homogeneous system copy, we are not changing an OS, we are not changing a database. OS migration, so basically heterogeneous system copy, we are changing the OS but not the database. Database migration, it's a heterogeneous system copy, we are changing the database. And OS/DB migration, we are changing both OS and the database. So these are the different terminologies and the scenarios when we use them. Okay, these are some of the examples which shows which particular migration you will call it as a heterogeneous migration, which particular migration you will call it as a homogeneous migration. So let's see, these are our source systems, these are our target systems, and if we go back here you can see the explanation of what is happening and basically what do we call, whether do we call it as a homogeneous or heterogeneous. Say that, take the first example, you have Windows 2000 OS, you have database say X, you have hardware manufacturer say Y. So in the target, what you do is your new target system is going to be say Windows 2003, your database is say X, your hardware manufacturer is Y. So what has happened in this particular scenario, in this particular example, is that OS, we are going to a successor OS because Windows 2000 is getting upgraded to a newer version of Windows operating system. So this we will call it as a homogeneous. Okay, next take the second example where we have Sun Solaris as the operating system, we have database X, and hardware is we have the Fujitsu Siemens hardware, and we are going to Sun Solaris itself, we are having the database as X and we are just changing from Fujitsu hardware to Sun hardware. So in this case we have not changed OS, we have not changed the database, same architecture, so we will call it as a homogeneous. Just take note that here in this case we have just changed the hardware. Now take the second example. Let's take next example, which is operating system is say 32-bit and database is also 32-bit. So we are moving to operating system 64-bit and database 64-bit. So in this particular source and target both are same OS, both are same database, so we will call this also as a homogeneous system copy. Okay, take the next example where we have operating system X, we have its version N, and we go from operating system X version N+1. Database version is X, we go from X version N to N+1. So in this case also we have the same OS, we have the same database, only newer version of OS and database. So this also we will call it as a homogeneous system copy. Okay, take the next example. Take this example where we have operating system X, database is X. We go to operating system Y and database X. So in this case the operating system has changed, that is different OS, same database, so we will call this as a heterogeneous system copy. Okay, the next thing is operating system X, database is X, operating system is Y, database is Y. So in this case we have a different OS, different database, so we will call this also as a heterogeneous system copy. So basically just I wanted to give you guys a clear cut explanation of when do you call a particular migration as a heterogeneous and when do you call it as a homogeneous, because homogeneous migrations are quite simpler because you are not changing your hardware and you are not changing your operating system, you are not changing your database, only we go to the newer versions of it. Okay, now here in this particular example you can see this is a sample or standard SAP landscape where you have a development system, you have a quality assurance system, you have a production system. So minimum configuration that you have is 4, say. Okay, minimum migration count is 3, so you have test and final migration. So basically here you can see that this is your development system, you have migrated it, you have quality system, you have migrated it, but before you can actually migrate your test system you conduct a test migration. So that is the reason why you can see there are 4 different things which is there. Okay, so but here you have just 3 things because quality system is not migrated. Okay, so let's see the basic information which is required for the source system which need to be migrated. So basically before we can get into anything we need to collect some basic information from the source system which need to be migrated. So what is that information? First thing is we should know what are the SAP products, whether it is a Java or whether it is a ABAP. Basically we should know all the products which is there in the system, so that when we are upgrading we need to, or when we are migrating we need to make sure that this is supported in a different or the changed hardware. Okay, so next thing is the installed version of products, support packages, kernel, operating system, databases. So we need to collect that information from the source system. Current system landscape, we need to draw down the existing landscape so that after migration we have the similar landscape. Okay, then how many systems are in productive state? System migration order and schedule. So basically we need to list down that what is going to be the schedule for the migration. So accordingly we need to plan the resources, accordingly we need to organize the order as well, that is in which order what systems we are going to migrate. That is also extremely important. Are we going to migrate couple of systems in parallel? Are we going to run different products, migration of different products in parallel? That is going to govern the timeline, that is the schedule and the migration order. Okay, so that is about the generic information which we need to collect before we can get into migrating a SAP system. Okay, so the next thing is the technical information. So technical information, we need to collect the information about the current hardware, that is how much CPU, memory, RAM we have in the system. We need to find out the size of the source database. Okay, because the source size of the database will govern what type of how much time we are going to take for the migration. Okay, we need to find out the largest tables and indexes, because if there are more number of larger tables, we may need to find out a special way of treating them. We may need to split those larger tables. We may need to find out the information about the code pages which is used, what type of are they on Unicode, or are they using different code pages, okay, or single code pages there. So, and tables in ABAP dictionary. So basically we need to have the information about what tables are in dictionary but not in database, and vice versa. We need to collect information about the external files and interfaces, about the free disk space for unloading the database, because when we are performing a migration, the first step in performing a migration is we need to export the database out of the source system. Okay, then as there are Java based migration tools or Perl based migration tools, so we need to install these products as well. Okay, then lastly, we need to come up with a plan or strategy how to transport the dump file from the source system to the target system. The reason is that, say, in some instances or some scenarios, we may move out from, say, one location. Say we have a data center in, say, XYZ location, say in San Jose, and we want to migrate that to, say, data center in New York. So we need to figure out a way to transport the dump file from the source system to the target system. So that is about the information that we have to collect from the source system. Now for the target system, what we need is we need the target system landscape. We need the information about the target hardware. Okay, we need to do the sizing based on the upgrade requirement. That is, if we migrate, what is going to be the requirement in the new hardware, what type of compression is there in the newer system. Say for example, if we are going to a newer version of, say, Oracle, the compression is there, and are we planning to use those newer functionality or not? So what type of target operating system version, what type of database target version, and the date of hardware availability and delivery dates, they are key for planning activities. Okay, so this is the information, basic information which we need for the target system. Okay, now migration approach steps for the test run. So this is extremely important, because before we can actually migrate our actual production system, we need to perform a test migration into the new hardware or new database or new operating system, just to make sure that there are no issues when we migrate this particular system. So basically we install the migration tool and prepare the source system. We export the data from the SAP source system. Okay, so basically here is the step-by-step list of all the activities which is involved in performing a migration. Okay, so once the export of the data is done from the source system, we install the SAP products on the target system. Okay, we install the database software in the target system, and once the database software installation is done, we transport the migration data, that is the data which is exported out. We migrate that data either using FTP or any other means of transferring that data to the target system. We generate the target database and we load the data export into the target database. So once that export and import is done, we need to perform a couple of follow-up or the post-migration activities. Okay, and after that we need to configure the test environment. Once that is done, we need to perform extensive test on the migrated system, because what happens is that the performance related parameters, say for example if we are changing from one database to another database, so the same parameters, tuning parameters, will not be there in the other database. So we need to find out a right value which need to be tuned from the database perspective, or similar applies for the OS as well. Okay, and actual migration is basically we should list down a clear-cut plan of performing the migration, performing follow-up activities, check the system, make a complete backup, and start the production work. So basically these are the key activities which is involved in performing an actual migration. Okay, once the migration is done, we need to make sure that we contact SAP for go live check, and this typically happens after 4 weeks of migration. So once that is in this particular phase, what SAP does is that they analyze the SAP system and database system logs. They analyze the response time of critical transaction. They analyze the performance bottlenecks in the SAP system and database. They optimize SAP system and database parameter, and we also need to make sure that we have the old production SAP system available for the verification purpose. Okay, that's all I wanted to cover in this particular training session. Thank you for joining and have a nice day. Bye bye.